Well, howdy ho there, folks. How are we doing today? Are you doing absolutely peachy keen fantastic? Hopefully you are. Let me tell you, I'm a little goblin. This is Yogigob, and his whole story was that he was a normal goblin, and then he had a vision of Shakti, and after he had a vision of Shakti, then he basically decided that, oh, hey, I'm a special little goblin, and he started to follow her around, and now he's a little Yogi goblin. And he loves the Divine Mother. Isn't that neat? I think that's neat. Anyway, like and subscribe, all that stuff. And the only reason I'm saying that now is because people kept telling me that apparently it's supposed to stay towards the beginning of the video. So, I don't know. Whatever, there you go. Anyway, I was going to talk about a couple different things today. I want to talk a little bit about some thoughts I've been having lately about the Divine Mother and chaos and all that fun stuff. And I was also just kind of getting itching to play a Goblin. Well, another Goblin, because I have multiple Goblins now. Cheer for Goblin! Cheer for the Goblins! But, hey, like I said, shrug, you do what you do, huh? Anyway, I love Warhammer Fantasy, and I sometimes use it to explore different themes and things like that. Like, I would sit there and think about a long time, like what the implications for things are and stuff like that. And lately, I've been doing my little prayers. I've been lighting these little ghee candles I got, and these ghee candles are actually pretty cool. They're, you just light a little ghee candle, and it's like you're doing like a ghee, like a butter offering at the same time that you're just doing like a regular little candle offering. And I'm like, yeah, two for baby. I'm in like Flynn. And I was just sitting there thinking about like one of the really wonderful things about the Divine Mother is that she's kind of like a representation of both the good and the bad. And like I was thinking about how even in the darkest shadows you still see that essence of the Divine Mother, and you still see like the glory of the Divine Mother even when you're like not sure what's going on and stuff like that. And I was really kind of enjoying that, and I was kind of sitting there meditating on her. And sometimes like I'll just be sitting and everything will be calm and relaxed, but other times I'll be sitting there and next thing I know I'm doing like I'm moving back and forth, like I'm almost doing like a soupy like zikr, where I'm just like saying things over and over again. And I was talking to the Divine Mother in prayer and all that good stuff, and I started to say, let the big shadow or what was it, let the great hurling wind of lunatics wash over me, and let the great sign of the sun wash over me. Let me rest on the beating heart of Jesus Christ, and let me hear your song in the flute of Krishna, stuff like that. And it was just really inspiring to me, and it really felt very good to me to have these little things coming to me. And I was having a lot of fun, just sitting there and these sort of things. And it kind of made me real, because I was kind of thinking about this in terms of, church attendance in the United States is like lower than it's ever been. And I was thinking about whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, or if it's really just kind of just a thing that is. And I think, of course, it is a thing that just is. But ultimately, one of the nice things about that is that I think people are realizing more and more that you don't need to have like a particular religion to be able to connect to God, and that you can be spiritual without having to go to a specific set of like religious ideals, and that you can really kind of express your freedom and things like that. And I think that that's really good, partially just because I think that a spiritual connection, if it's made earnestly and with the desire, and with the desire to connect to God, or to really experience truth, I think that you're much more likely to get something long lasting and good out of it. Whereas if you are just kind of like repeating like religious rituals over and over again, I think you're far less likely to get something good out of it. I think that there's a lot of people who basically fall victim to ritualism and just kind of embrace it. And they also kind of get this whole idea of like, well, while things are going good for me, it's easy to believe in the Lord, but like when things are not going good for me, it's harder. And it's kind of crazy to think about that, because it's like, well, there's always things going on in the world that we might consider negative, and there's always things going on that might represent like more of like a chaotic bent to things than we're like used to. But that doesn't mean that like the Divine Mother wasn't there at that moment, right? Like she's in every moment, even in the moments that we don't quite understand, and even in the moments that are like kind of confuse us and make us wonder like, what are we doing? Why are we going through all this? It's like part of the problem I think with ritualism is that you tend to do these rituals for specific results. Like, one of the criticisms I've always had of the Rig Veda is that it's mostly just like rituals that you would do to get like material things. It's like spiritual materialism, basically. And I don't really think that's a very strong foundation for faith. First off, because, you know, the Divine Mother does answer prayers, but she's not necessarily going to answer prayers in the way that you think she should. She'll do things that are better for us in the long-term spiritual type fashion. That's not always like necessarily the way that we think or the way that we want things to go, right? Like, sometimes we want things very specifically, like we want to have things in the way that we imagine them in our mind. But ultimately, the mother doesn't like work like that per se. She works on a much grander scale and all that. And it kind of makes you, ooh, thanks, Cranks. He's a crank. Ah, I get it. He gets it. But, you know, and we go through our lives dealing with things like this. But, you know, true yogis, what they end up doing is they take things that happen to them which are good and they appreciate them as part of the Divine Mother's grace, but they also appreciate things that happen that are we would maybe consider bad, or things that we wouldn't necessarily think we would want to have happen. Those are also part of the Divine Mother's plan and the Divine Mother's grace, right? Like, ultimately, all this different stuff happens in such a way where it's all part of the Divine Mother's plan, and part of the reason we're here is to enjoy the Leela and to act like it's a play. Like, if you're an actor in a play, you don't take it all too seriously, right? You just enjoy your part, you have fun with it. Maybe you're trying to convey a message and you do your best to convey that message. Maybe you're trying to treat. Maybe you're trying to oh no. I have become one with the ground. I am the ground goblin. Come, ask me things, and I'll share. I'm just slowly. I think I'm actually sinking. Oh no! Hey. See, that's the blessing of the Divine Mother. But if I had become a ground goblin, that is also the blessing of the Divine Mother, and then I get to tell people secrets from the ground. But yes. The truth is that events will happen regardless of who you are or where you are. Things are always occurring, but the mother is in all of these things, whether they're the chaotic things of destruction and fun, chaotic type things, you know, bombs, hugs, all kinds of chaotic type things, or it's the things that we typically associate with the pure and orderly and all that. But the truth is that the mother is non-dual. She represents all things. She's not simply the things that we would consider good or the things that we would consider bad. She's all of it. And, you know, sometimes I think we forget that and we have these very sterile images of God in our head. But the truth is that, you know, in the darkness Shakti shines and in the light Shakti shines. There is no really getting away from her. There's a story about the Mahavidyas, the 10 Mahavidyas, right? And it's that Kali is married to Shiva, and Shiva wants to go do something that Kali doesn't want him to do, or he's trying to get away from her, basically. And whatever direction he turns in, he sees one of the Mahavidyas, right? Like Kamala, or, you know, whichever one. He sees one of the Mahavidyas, so he can't turn away from her anywhere he goes, and it's like a representation of how, like, the Divine Mother is within all beings. Even in bad beings are things that we consider bad. And even in things that we don't understand. The mother is, you know, like a representation of the greatest stars that's ever been, galaxies and clusters and superclusters and all these things like that. But she's also a representation of the smallest of the small, quarks and quasars and every little subatomic particle. They all dance to the same tune, and it is her tune. And, you know, once you realize that, it's kind of hard to have, like, the whole idea of, like, you go to like a church, for instance, like, oh man, this is the good and the bad, it's the devil versus this. It's like, no. It's all part of the same greater scheme. And sometimes I think it's a lot easier to see that when you have the ability to kind of go by yourself and like spend time in communion with the Divine Mother. Or you know, like, one of the nice things about going to a place where you get to have basically like private time to yourselves is that you can have those moments of realization of, like, You know, she's always there with you, and sometimes being in private can really help you with that. Other times it's also really good to go to a temple and like really get involved in things like that. But to understand that, like, you know, no matter where you look, no matter where you are, the Divine Mother is with you. It also kind of makes you go, well, do I need to go to a temple? And it's like, well, if going to a temple helps you realize your oneness with the Divine Mother, then yes, I think it's very good to do that. But if ultimately you feel like I do, and when I go to a lot of places, which is that I don't feel that closeness. Although I do really like religious buildings, I've just never been that big of a fan of like a lot of religious services. I tend to find that they don't really give me what I am looking for in my meditation and my prayer and things like that. I'm looking for that connection to the Lord, not necessarily a big community type thing. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with it if you like going to those community type things. But for me personally, it's much more about connecting with that glory, that wondrous chaos, that wondrous shine of the Mother's light, no matter where I go. And yeah, of course, I can do that in a church service. I can do that with a bunch of people around. But I tend to find that I feel like I get more out of it if I'm, like, for instance, in a place where I get to enjoy the Divine Mother's blessings and enjoy thinking and things like that. Although if you do kirtan and if you do lots of singing, and, you know, like you do like some Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, or some, you know, like some big chanting of Om Krim Hakali Kali Namaha, or even like a Jesus Christ Superstar, Jesus, any of that, all that stuff is good. But, you know, we all have our different ways that we like to worship, and we all have our different ways that things make sense to us. We shouldn't all expect people to do exactly the same thing. And I think part of the thing about, like, community as well, while I understand why it's important and why it can do a lot for you, I also kind of feel like sometimes it can really detract as well if you're not, like, careful with it. You can get kind of distracted with it, and you can get kind of like thrown off. Actually, wait a minute, does this guy have... He does have down in the slop. Okay, since we're going to the same place, we're gonna go down there. And sometimes you just have these moments where, like, certain things make more sense to you, and, like, sometimes you know, like, one of the things is that the Buddha says that seclusion is good. Krishna says that seclusion can be good. There's lots of yogis that will say that seclusion can be good, although we need different things at different phases in our lives. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying, like, a good bit of worship, right? There's nothing wrong with loving the Divine Mother in all of her various different forms, and having moments where oh, hey, Teef, and having these moments where things make more sense, or maybe sometimes things make a little bit work core. I think I gotta go. Oh yeah, I gotta go up here. Where sometimes it makes more sense to be, like, alone in your thoughts type things. Meditation can be really good as well. Sometimes you just need to take some time and enjoy the visions of the Mother. And, like, I would always suggest, like, really focusing on the Mother and really trying to understand her glory and all of its vastness. Not I mean, Jimmy Dean? Okay, I just wanted to share that. That's just what I've been thinking about lately. Anyway, I hope that you all have an absolutely great one. I hope that you know that I love you and God loves you. And bye-bye, I love you, bye. Also, Yogi Goblin loves you. Yogi Goblin says many good things. And now here, let Yogi Goblin do something special for you before you leave. Oh, look at him. Wasn't that special? Okay, bye, I love you, bye. God loves you, bye. Have a great one, bye. Like, subscribe, bye. I love you, bye.